Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are live on Maine's TBD Connection Business Networking Podcast. This is your host, Jake McLaughlin, live at your local mortgage lender, Academy Mortgage in South Portland. Huge thanks to Noah Fennessy with Legal Shield for sponsoring this, and your local networking chapter, TBD Connections, for supporting this. This podcast is for local entrepreneurs and motivated career professionals looking to get their name out there, or simply for your listeners thinking about building a brand but would like to learn first from those doing it. Today's guest, we have Will Paradis with Farmers Insurance. On this episode, we'll go over his daily agenda, just how he's keeping his clients in the door, and the steps he took to getting into insurance. Will, let's get right into it. My man, how we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jake?
Not too bad, not too bad. We got gray skies in Maine right now, but the weather's like it's above 30 degrees in January, so I'll take it.
The weather outside is weather. It's a little rainy, but not too bad. At least it's Friday.
Right. So we work a pretty similar schedule, right? Where it's all referral based, constant networking, day to day, right?
Yep.
Okay. So that is probably one of the entrepreneur aspects I want to touch on. So what does your day to day look like? Like, for instance, today, what's your schedule look like, or what's an ideal schedule look like?
Yeah, so I think my schedule is a little different than your average insurance agent. I'm not sort of behind the computer as much, banging the phones. Today, for example, we got this podcast set up. After that, I'll be heading out. Got a breakfast and coffee with a realtor. And then I got a lunch with someone in our networking group, Hussein, who owns Cleaning Joy. Yep. So we're actually going to go over to another networking friend's spot, Falafel Time in Portland, and support his business. Awesome food there. If nobody's been yet, head over to Forest Ave Falafel Time. A little shout out for Q.
Yeah, shout out to Mr. Clean, Hussein Adon, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So that doesn't sound like a bad schedule, right?
No, and after that I'll be heading back into the office, but I do have the freedom to network a few days a week, have lunches with people, make connections, and I love that because I'm more of an outside dog than an inside cat, so to speak. Yeah,
I would say kind of a similar story for me, where it's like the last thing I wanted was to end up behind a keyboard. You know, I wanted the flexibility to be in and out of the office, kind of being, shaking hands, meeting clients or partners in person.
Shaking hands, kissing babies.
That's right, man. And then also just having control of what I do, when I do it, how I do it, and to take it back to this podcast, it's like this morning, you wake up at 7:30, alarm's going off, but it's like you're not dreading having to go into work.
No, I was excited for today, man. I was getting gassed up in the car, listening to some tunes, and excited to start the day with a little chat. And not your average 9 to 5, I would say. So
right, that's what great. I'm saying. Like the idea of this podcast for anyone that's watching is we want to help give people that are right now in their lives, maybe they're just getting out of college, or maybe they're working your salary paying job 2-3 years in, whatever, and you're like, geez, could I be doing something different? You're just not really set in stone with what you want to do.
Yeah, which is okay. I'm 34. I've been in insurance for a couple of years now, but I've had many different jobs throughout my time. I started off sort of after college working in restaurants as a waiter, which was great money, and again got to be on my feet a lot. Did a lot of lacrosse coaching, personal training. I've done painting. I've worked in a number of fields, mostly on my feet, moving around. So it's nice to be able to have some flexibility within the insurance or the lending side of things, and just moving and shaking.
Kind of felt it out a little bit.
Definitely. It took, for about 8 years, my good buddy was telling me, you have to sell insurance. And for about 8 years, I told him, you're nuts. I'm not going to sell insurance. But I love it now. It's and went to college originally for secondary education in history. So I was going to be a history teacher, and I found sort of every field I've navigated through, there's an element of education, and that's one of the biggest pieces that I like about insurance now is it's not a sexy topic, insurance. A lot of people don't know a ton about it, and so there's a great opportunity for me to educate people and and bring them up to speed, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, I mean, insurance, like I was talking about with Andy about mortgages, is like, mortgages isn't that sexy either.
Yeah.
But the component that's attached to it, like the house, is, that's what people want to do. They want to get out, they want to home shop and all that. But similar with insurance is like, the concept of it is there's so many layers to it, and it's like just exhausting to think about, but it applies to everything.
Yeah, I mean, everyone needs insurance, and it's funny how they think of it. Part of my challenge is changing the way people conceptualize it, because it's an intangible product. It's not, an iPhone, but people should think of it more like an iPhone. People generally think of it as sort of a requirement. Do I have insurance? Yes, that box is checked. The state knows I have insurance. I'm good. But if you think about it more like an iPhone, you wouldn't buy an iPhone 6 and, you can make calls on it and this and that. But then when it really comes down to it, if you got to take that really nice picture, might not give you the results that you need. So
right.
Same thing with insurance. Big part of my job is tailoring that conversation with people, actually having a conversation with people about how much coverage do you need, let's get it accurate, and let's make sure that what you're paying for is actually going to do its job if you ever have that, no good, terrible, very bad day that no one hopes for.
Right. Now you're licensed in pretty much all facets of insurance, right? You do business, auto, home.
So yep, as an agency, I work for the Jeff Lee Agency. We're over in South Portland on 650 Main Street, diagonal from Aroma Joe's, right next to the main vintage toy store. And we do a little bit of everything, pretty much everything under the sun. We do a little bit of commercial. We do personal lines. We do life insurance for people. We even do pet insurance.
Yep.
Our bread and butter is really, those personal lines. Most of our business comes through home transactions.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we really take pride in helping people navigate that journey, that chapter of their life, and making sure that they're set up well and have their assets covered and protected in the right way.
Yeah. Speaking of homeowners insurance, one of the main reasons why I refer you on the majority of my files is because I like to feel like the quality of the professionalism and the due diligence for what you're recommending to the client is followed all the way through.
Yep.
And
for sure.
Right. And it's a matter of just kind of having that trust and also understanding, like, it's not always transactional, right? Like, you're looking for that continued business. You're looking to make a partnership even with your client too,
yep.
Especially when they're looking for business insurance as well. So
yeah, you're trying to gain their trust, and unfortunately, not everyone looks at it that way, where they're trying to come from a place of contribution, and they do look at it transactionally, and maybe they're thinking about the commission that they're getting or whatever it may be. We really try to take the approach that we're going to leave you in a better spot after you talk to us than before. Whether we get your business or not, everybody is very focused on price. How can I save money? Which is great. We have great rates, so we're able to do that for people. We're sitting pretty there.
yeah.
But sometimes, if we're not the right fit for somebody, we'll tell them that, and that gains their trust. And maybe we see them in 6 months, maybe we see them in a year, maybe we don't. But we know that if we give them that insurance review, look everything over. Take that fine-tooth comb and dot the I's and cross all the T's for them. Maybe the transaction ends up with us just giving them recommendations to take back to their current carrier.
Yeah.
In which case, I feel good about putting somebody in a spot, even if it's not with our company, where they're better insured. They have more peace of mind, so to speak.
Awesome, man. Now, let's dial it back a notch. So, how long has the Jeff Lee Agency been around, and how did you end up with Jeff Lee?
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny story in terms of how I got back with Jeff. I had worked with Jeff previously at another company, and sort of took a break and did some painting. Farmers in general is brand new to New England. They've expanded from sort of the West Coast and the South to New England as their newest pursuit, and they contacted Jeff. They actually recruited Jeff to start his own agency, which he started, I believe, back in the spring and around April. At that time, I was painting houses for a friend, which I love the work, but I got a plate and 6 screws on this arm.
Oh boy.
I was lugging ladders around. It was starting to get hot. I was about 25 feet in the air on a plank painting this house, and Jeff gave me a call and said, "You want to come back to the game?" And so it was a pretty easy decision for me. I really love the people that I work with, and I love the approach that we take. So yeah, really a no-brainer for me. But things have been going well. Our agency's doing great in our first year. So
that's awesome. Wow, first year, huh?
First year, yeah. We were actually the first from scratch farmers agency in New England. So it's good,
cool.
Good stuff. We got some momentum going into 2023.
Yeah. It's kind of unique to the way that the whole Jeff Lee team works, because it's like it does feel very local, even though Farmers Insurance is kind of a big brand.
For sure.
It's definitely local. You'd mentioned that you guys were having like a movie night the other week. Yeah,
we have a good team. We're all sort of friends, and we all have different strengths and weaknesses, and they complement each other. And so every once in a while we'll have just sort of a little get together. Maybe watch Cedar Rapids, a nice insurance movie with John C. Reilly.
There you go.
Get some chuckles in, but we try to keep it light. And like I said, insurance isn't a very sexy topic, and for some people it can be pretty boring. And so coming at it with just a smile, a fresh attitude, and a good outlook sometimes can be the difference with people. Talking to somebody too, nobody wants to call a 1-800 number and say representative 40 times to try to get somebody on the phone, which is a lot of people's experience sometimes with the carriers that are saving money on that end. Less humans, more robots. Yeah, no, I would say a direct line of communication is like a big seller point for me with working with anyone, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of just becoming more personalized with your client, for me anyways, one of the first objectives I have is getting off the phone and figuring out other ways to get in touch with somebody. And to kind of relate that with your kind of flexibility in being able to do multiple things. Like you did painting, you were doing another side hustle at a time before you ended up in insurance. I can relate to that because prior to this, 2-3 years ago, when I first got out of school, I wanted to be an EMT. Then I completely flipped the script on that. Ended up doing a business job and W-2 9 to 5. And after 2 years there, I had mentioned this before. I remember catching on to the fact that when I started a W-2 paying job, I was always thinking about, boy, I can't wait to get promoted and move on to the next thing. And that is just a very bad frame of mind to have. But I did have the ability to be very flexible. So when I decided that I was tired of this, I'm gonna start doing what I want to do. I ended up getting into various things. I did do painting. I actually drove a tow truck for a couple of years. And the ability to do both gave me the flexibility to be able to work when I want. It wasn't a 9 to 5 job. No one was checking in on me. They were just making sure the work was getting done. Yeah. And on the side of that, I was trying, studying finance, trying to get into the realm of finance and figure out how I can build myself up in that way. There was some attraction I had in that way, and I was like, boy, if I can just keep the flexibility I have now and tie that to what I want to do, that's the single goal that I had in mind. And it sounds like the same played out for you, but just with insurance. Yeah, I definitely had multiple fingers in different pies when I was in my 20s. I at one point was working at a restaurant, personal training, lacrosse coaching, and playing lacrosse myself, and doing yoga and going to the gym. And I think about those days I was running around like a madman, and it was fun. It was a great time, and I learned a ton from every pie that I had a finger in. But at some point, the flexibility doesn't become as attractive, at least to me, I think. And then I wanted sort of something a little bit more
substantial. When I was up on that 25-foot ladder, I was definitely thinking about health insurance,
Oh, absolutely.
stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You're not as tuned into in your 20s maybe when you're feeling invincible. But
Right.
no, I would recommend for anybody that's, doesn't know what they want to do and is stressed about that, try different things,
100%. I mean, your 20s is kind of like the test phase.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're 21 or 29 figuring it out. That's kind of the age group where you try a bunch of things, right?
Yep. And the sort of, whether it's self-imposed or if other people are putting the sort of, a timeline onto your life of you need to do this and you need to do that, and 1 + 2 = 3, and that's how it has to go. It seems like nowadays that couldn't be farther from the truth. People, there's so many educational opportunities on even just the internet, free educational resources for people to develop whatever skills they want. It just sort of takes the time and the determination and the fire in the belly to get there. So
Yeah, I mean, to tie in everything with being flexible, having the just the mindset of being able to try all those things, and the courage to be able to try all those things, like, hey, I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing this a year from now, but I know it's not what I want to be doing right now, so let me try it, and I'll figure it out. I think that mentality speaks volumes, because what we do now is, trying to get in front of people, trying to build a clientele from scratch.
Yep.
No one's giving you a book with leads to call. You have to go find those leads.
do some hunting.
Right? Do some prospecting. So every day we are brainstorming, we are strategizing. We're the CEOs trying to figure out how do we build partnerships that are going to last, not just be transactional, but how are they going to last?
Yeah, those connections are big, and I think, I pulled skills from each and every one of those jobs that I use today and every day, selling insurance and networking and making those connections. But they're huge. They're invaluable in terms of growing your business, and appreciate the connections that we've made, and our networking groups are great. So I'm very thankful for all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too when you go out, like doing what we do, where we're constantly going out into the community and seeing what we can get out of it, what we can pull back in, what types of people we can meet, make that connection and pull back in, is interesting, because now it's like, I don't know, when I drive into work and I'm like on 295 and I'm kind of looking at Portland, it's just a different appearance to me, where I'm thinking about all the new, opportunities that can happen, that can come out of just thin air.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the other day, I have a client of mine that he's looking at multi-units in the Auburn-Lewiston area, which is where I grew up.
Okay.
And this connection started out of thin air, and we've been working together for 3 to 4 months. You're doing everything we can, building up his savings, building up his offer so he can make a strong offer and finally land on a place. It's going to be his first investment property. Guy's got a wife, he's got a baby, he's the man of the house. He's trying to, really set the ground firm for his family. And after enough conversations, we figure out that, this guy's an HVAC, he's a plumber, he's a hardworking guy, he's starting an LLC on the side.
Okay.
And it's like, Will Paradis, my insurance guy. This would be a great conversation, not only just a great conversation to have with the client, but we all kind of get along in a way. We all kind of have the same mindset. So sure enough, I invite him out to go to this business networking event, and we all just kind of naturally come together. And it's like we just had these natural conversations about, his future home that he's going to have. Homeowners insurance ties into that. Business insurance ties into that. We're sharing this expertise, and it's like, that is a relationship that I'm talking about that's going to last continuously. And it's like his HVAC, his plumbing skills, I could definitely use him on another property investor's, property that he's looking at, and he may need a plumber to go and do repairs. I mean, that's perfect for this guy who's trying to be an entrepreneur, especially in this state where over 50% of businesses run are, small businesses, solo entrepreneurs,
Yeah, Portland and Maine in general, it's it's big enough that there's enough business to go around, but it's small enough, but that your reputation is really important, and those connections are really important. In terms of what you're saying, in terms of the big picture, that's one thing that we really like to look at. What are you doing residentially? What are you doing with your business? It's a conversation that doesn't always happen in insurance. Some agents are a little more transactional, but we want to be your agent for life, just as you want to be, lender for life or real estate agent for life, whatever it is. You want to keep that connection. So personally for me, having that conversation and listening to the people, which doesn't always happen today. I feel like people are talking just to talk a lot of the time. So taking that extra time, listening to people and seeing what's the big picture, and then continuing that conversation. Insurance wise, has anything changed? Have you added an addition to the house? Is little Timmy getting his license? When are we looking forward to that? Making sure that the insurance picture changes along with the customer's picture. People really appreciate that. They appreciate even just, a text to check in. Hey, it's been a while. How you doing? How's that knitting going? Whatever it may be.
Right.
How's the cat we insured? Twix, Twix is our favorite cat that we insure, just to let you know.
Your favorite cat you insure?
Yeah, we insure some pets, and I would say insure your pets if you want. We're up for nominations for a new favorite pet, but right now Twix is number one.
I love that. How many like pet insurance transactions do you do?
Not as many as home and auto. It's sort of a little bit more of an accessory.
How do dogs compare to cats insurance wise?
How so? In terms of claims,
is one more popular than the other? Or?
I would say it's about even. Okay. I'd be curious what the numbers are for if people are still 50-50 on cats and dogs. I'm a little bit more of a dog guy myself.
Same.
Got some coworkers that are more cat people. So just in our small office sample, I would say it's about 50-50.
Right. Yeah, I think my next step is to get a work dog.
Work dog?
Yep.
For the office? I love that. I love that for you, man.
Gotta have a work dog.
What breed are you thinking?
Golden Retriever all day.
Big golden guy. Okay. Yeah. I'm more of a bully breed guy.
Really?
Yeah, I got a boxer mix, and the boxers, man, they're just clowns. They're goofy. Really? They're lovable. They're attached to your hip. They're loyal. They're big enough that they might scare somebody if they don't wag their tail.
But will they watch TV with you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Big. I'm not pulling your chain on. They will be attached to your thigh, face under the blanket, waiting to get in there. They're big swaddlers, big snugglers.
Gotta have a furry bud, man.
The furry bud. Yeah, it's clutch.
Man, I can't. We were talking about this earlier with like watching TV, and I think we've talked about some good things about what it is we do.
Yep.
But some of the negative parts of what we do, where it's like it's not 9 to 5. What does that mean? It means that you almost have to remind yourself to turn off at certain times of the day.
You definitely have to compartmentalize a little bit, at least for me.
Yeah.
Flip the switch and get that reset time with the family, with friends, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But it still trickles in. My business cards are scattered everywhere, from backpacks to back pockets to glove box. So, like you were saying before, in terms of the gentleman from Lewiston, you never know when an opportunity is going to present itself. You never know when you can make a connection with somebody. Had a very funny happening occur. I went out to breakfast with a gentleman to do some networking, and saw a lacrosse mom from about 10 years ago. I coached both of her sons in high school.
Nice.
And they read her name on the sandwich. Pick up for so-and-so, and I said, hold on, I gotta pause it. I gotta say hi to this person.
Yeah.
Turns out, gave them my card. They emailed me the next day and gave them a call. They just bought a property, and where's that property located? Across the street from my house.
Wow.
So not only was
small world, really.
Very small world. And so we'll be writing their insurance, I think either today or tomorrow. And it's just funny, man. You never know who you're gonna meet, how it's going to turn out. And so sometimes you just got to shoot your shot and it's funny how the world works.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna let you drink your water, but I do have a very I do have a very broad question. So I'm sure there's been more than one of these, but for me, when I think back, one thought that I have, that was like a wake up to me, where it was like, all right, I got to change up what I do. That was me working my W-2 job, catching myself, starting the job and being like, I can't wait to move on to the next thing.
So, yeah.
If
Looking
you were
for the pasture that's greener
right
when you arrive.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you think of one of those memories when you were just like, all right, I gotta change it up because
gotta get out of here.
My next
do
move
something
is
different.
Right. My next move is going to be long term. I'm going to be happy doing it, and that's what counts.
Yeah, I mean, what I talked about in terms of being 25 feet up in the air, up on that ladder, sweating bullets, as my arm was barking at me. That was definitely a moment, but I think in my 20s too, I definitely had a couple moments serving tables where, people keep asking you, so what are you in school for? Or, or so what do you do besides this? And knew that I didn't want to be a server, a lifelong server. I have friends that are, and they make great money doing it. And it's stylistically, it's great for them.
Yeah.
But for me, I had a gentleman one time at a steakhouse that I worked at. The temperature that he wanted on his steak, the basic explanation is a French-style steakhouse. And so every temperature that you would order would actually be one temperature lower on the rare side. And so we had to explain that about 3-4 times to every table to make sure there weren't any, misconceptions, or make sure people got the steak that they wanted. And had a gentleman one time, explained it to him 3 or 4 times. His family seemed to understand the terms of the agreement, and gets his steak and tried to fight me over his steak being medium rare instead of medium.
Oh, man.
Got up and was talking about throwing hands.
Really?
And so that was definitely a moment where I was
Don't mess up the steak, man.
I didn't. That's the thing, Sometimes there's miscommunications, and
True.
It goes back to listening. The 3 other people at his table definitely were listening, and all their steaks were correct. But he just was having a very bad day, and I guess wanted to take it out on me. And so that was a moment where I thought I could definitely do something else.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Almost throwing hands over steak.
Over steak. So,
It's crazy, man.
His father owned a steakhouse, and he, sometimes people think they know what it is and how it should be.
His father owned a steakhouse.
That's what he said. My father owned a steakhouse. How dare you tell me how to cook a steak?
Gotcha.
But also had many, many, many great times, in that restaurant. So I still am fond of those memories, and think, maybe I could get a little side hustle going at this place or that place and sling some tequila or some tacos or something. But
not a bad combination, by the way.
No, not bad at all.
Sometimes it takes that, though. Sometimes it just takes just a bad experience, to just really weigh you down, bring you back to earth, and just be like, it's time. It's time for me to figure it out. And it's tough when you're coming out of college and you're like, especially now, you get so many things thrown in your face. You can go on the internet and, in the morning, you may want to be an accountant. And then by the end of the day, if you spend enough time on the internet, you may be like, geez, maybe I want to be a realtor. Who knows? Yeah. So it's tough. But I think it really does take, if you're one of the very lucky few that comes out of college and you're like, I know exactly what I want to do, your mindset should be, I'm going to try this thing. And as soon as I feel like I'm not happy here, or I don't see growth here, I'm going to move on to something else. And it doesn't matter if it's completely different.
I think life's too short, man. It's happiness is key, and it's a big reason why I'm selling insurance. I love the people that I work with. I love, as we were saying, love the flexible schedule that I personally have, and love making connections with people and helping them out. Yeah. It's super satisfying seeing kids that I coached, and it's a little, jarring now that they're buying me beers and stuff. I see them at the bar. But that sort of satisfaction of helping people has always been a part of my life, I would say. Even when I was in high school, I was volunteering, helping coach youth lacrosse. And so, I'm not teaching kids how to score behind the back goals anymore, but I'm helping people save some money on their insurance, helping people, make sure that if something happens, their family's going to be taken care of. Like I said, giving them peace of mind in this uncertain world.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're putting meaning into what you're doing too, and that's what, at the end of the day, that's what people really want, is not just another voice on the phone, and someone that's going to take that leap to get off the phone and meet with them in person, and put meaning in the conversation. Like, hey, there's purpose behind what you're doing. Advise them on their options and stuff like that. Speaking of kind of finding that meaning in things. You brought up Robin Williams. Like,
I did. Yeah.
Wow. Speaking of a hell of an actor, Robin Williams. That's a big name to throw out there, man.
Yeah. So last night I was telling Jake I watched Robin Williams documentary on HBO with my dad and my girlfriend, and wonderful documentary. If you haven't seen it, really goes into sort of the layers of the onion with him. But it's phenomenal just in terms of the joy that he brings.
Yeah.
He lights up a room, and there is a dichotomy to it where he struggled with depression and some substance abuse and this and that. But it's a beautiful documentary in terms of the light and the energy and the difference that he made in people's lives just with humor. And I'm a big comedy guy. I've always loved, especially with my dad, we've always connected with watching, Monty Python and Saturday Night Live and some of that stuff that is sort of, silly and unpredictable, exactly like Robin Williams. But do you have any comedians or actors that really kind of did it for you as a kid?
I mean, it's tough. One, because I'm so bad with names.
Okay.
And two, just because I'm trying to think of like relevancy. I would say Dave Chappelle off the top of my head.
Yep.
I think he's really interesting because it's like he's been the only comedian where he can pause the humor but keep the audience's attention, and all of a sudden get so deep in what he's saying. Like, he actually has, I wouldn't say like an agenda, but he definitely has purpose. He has meaning in what he's saying. He's joking around about it, but then he can pause the audience and he can say, this is the fine line.
Explain things. Yeah, he does an excellent job at keeping the crowd engaged and explaining his point and sandwiching, a funny bit with something serious, a serious point he wants to make, and then slapping that funny bread on at the end too. Yeah, Dave is great. I love hearing Dave on SNL when he does his intros now and sort of just breaks things down.
Right.
But it's interesting how comedy has gone. It's especially in sort of the climate we're in. I wouldn't say that people are being stifled or limited in what they say, but the threat of comedians being canceled or this and that, it seems like a lot of people have gone to the podcast world, gone to that avenue to really get their comedy out. Yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, everyone's doing a podcast now. You're right.
Yeah,
everyone's doing a podcast now.
Yep.
And I think it just opens up the room to just, just be true for a moment and just kind of just talk about things. And well, podcast is one of the only things now where you can't really get canceled on, right?
I guess. Yeah, I'm not sure what the rules of cancellation are these days. But it seems like there's a little bit more freedom with it. Maybe it's just because the podcast, someone does a podcast and then it's not up on Netflix and it's got all these sponsors and stuff, and it's more by choice,
Yeah.
No one's forcing you to listen to Joe Rogan's podcast or Theo Vaughn's podcast or Neil deGrasse Tyson's podcast or whoever you want to listen to. And so I think there is a little bit more freedom of expression with it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also too like, because like for Joe Rogan, when he started his, he had like no views. He was kind of just doing it for fun.
Yep.
But then over time, he built his audience up, you know, and it's like, I don't know, it's just interesting because I feel like every podcast has its own special audience where it's like you don't really know where it's going to go, but you're going to get people that are interested in it. You know, when it's thrown up online for, you know, everyone to see, you're going to catch someone's attention and someone's going to see it and be like, I understand where these guys are trying to go with this and I'm interested in it.
Well, it's exploded too. Now there's podcasts for anything that you're into, whether it's, true crime or I listened to a podcast with former Eagles and Patriots player Chris Long.
Okay.
He just has sort of an interesting, like you said, you find people with similar opinions or similar mindsets, and I really like some of the stuff that Chris Long has done with. He donated his whole salary, I think, in one of his years with the Eagles to start scholarships in Virginia, I believe, where he's from.
No kidding.
Yeah, he was the Walter Payton Man of the Year in terms of community service, and
wow.
So he has that. He has a foundation called Water Boys, which helps get sustainable water to villages in Africa. Very interesting dude. Also, 2-time Super Bowl champ, son of Howie Long, comes from NFL, strong NFL bloodlines.
Yeah.
But he's also kind of just a dude,
Right.
Talks about how pissed he is that his dog got out of the backyard and, going to music festivals and all sorts of stuff. He's an interesting cat. So that appeals to me, but whatever appeals to you, there's a podcast out there for it. You just got to find it.
Yeah. I know. I mean, when I listen to a podcast too, it's like, I could be doing a lot of things. I could be driving to work. I could be painting some trim.
Working out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. And I feel like not enough people are having these in-depth conversations, to get deep on the podcast. I feel like
delve deep, baby.
Yeah. I feel like not enough people are having in-depth conversations. I don't know. It's one thing that I think I dialed in on, you dialed in on with work, where it's like, I'm not happy with where I'm at. I don't know what's going on, but I need to change it up. And I kind of see that now with like even some past friendships where it's like, I don't know what's going on here, but it's not the style that I want.
Sometimes you gotta take stock of things and I hate to say it, but cut the fat. With whatever it is, relationships, job, maybe it's actually cutting sweets out, cutting some fat.
Right.
But yeah, definitely.
I was at it was a course that this time around it was a property investor teaching the course to just a community of first-time home buyers interested in doing something. And towards the end of that, everyone had questions, and I was kind of up at the front with everyone that was their profession somehow related, and kind of our job was to answer the audience's questions. And one girl was a college student, and her question was, hey, I'm 20 years old, I do have some money, I have good credit, not really sure what I want to do yet with if I want to buy a single family home or a multifamily home. I have no idea what the process is. I kind of know how to get started, but I don't know. I mean, I don't have a goal yet, basically is what she was saying. Do you think I should get started in real estate? And that was a really interesting answer. And the answer that was given to her was very knowledgeable. There was another loan officer there. We didn't throw hands after, by the way. We're all friends in this business.
Yep.
It was a very knowledgeable answer, but it was about like your steps in the process. But then after the meeting, I talked to her, and I really wanted to, and I came out and just kind of said, with everything else aside, your question, I felt that, and I was like, the first step is surround yourself with people that want to buy a home and figure out what you want to do from that point.
Yep.
You know, because if you don't know you want to buy a home yet, you're not ready. You're not ready. I mean, most of my clients that come to me, we're working together for a couple months or you know, it could be 30 days, who knows? Could be 30 days, could be 6 months. They want to buy the house.
Yeah.
You know, they want to buy the house. And there's tremendous energy put into both sides. I mean, my side, the client's side. Let's not focus on the steps of the home buying process. You're not sure you want to buy the house yet. So let's keep it basic and just surround yourself with people that want to buy a house, because those people are motivated. They have an understanding as to, you know, what kind of ROI comes with owning real estate. They probably have an understanding of other types of investments, you know, stocks, bonds, whatever that may be. And they also probably have connections or a network tied to that too.
Yep.
And all those people bring a lot of knowledge. You hanging out with those people, you're going to be able to see, you know, what are they doing on a day-to-day basis? Are they going out at night and, you know, getting crazy with friends? Or do they have their own agenda? You know, do they have their own career that they're fascinated with and they're getting up every morning to go do that?
You got to surround yourself with like-minded people that want to get to the same spot that you do, have the same goals.
And that's a good first step.
Generally, it'll accelerate the process, and then it's not so much, you know, you get that osmosis effect.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right, man. Well, this has been great.
Absolutely.
I always like to kind of wrap it up with three bullet points from you to, like, your younger self, right? So someone's reaching that point where they're like, you know, I know I want to get started. I know I want to do something great, but I don't know how to do it or how to go about it. What would you say?
Yeah, so I think the first thing you got to do is toss the ego aside. Know that, you know, if you're starting something out, you're probably starting from the bottom, and you got to go in and be a sponge. You got to soak up as much information as you can. Second thing, don't be afraid to ask for help. It's not all on you to figure everything out, and it's to your benefit to use the resources around you, use the people around you that are knowledgeable, and you know, whatever that path is, find people, find mentors, find people that can help you along, whether that's just surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. And then the third thing is believe in yourself, you know, however that is, however you get from point A to point B in the morning to get you hyped, ready for the day, ready to seize the day. You know, Deion Sanders would say, look good, feel good, play good.
I like that.
So I'll leave it at that, you know.
Awesome.
Charge into life with confidence, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. And you might find yourself selling insurance with a whole bunch of people you like.
I love that. All right, man. Great to have you.
Hey, thanks, Jake. Appreciate it.